Hey, everybody. Welcome to Breakfast All Day. It's Christy. It's Alonso. It's the holidays, but we had to squeeze in one last show before we fold up our tents and go off and do things for Christmas and whatnot. So we got some news before we wrap this baby up. And of course, something huge will break this afternoon once we're finished recording, as it always does, but we'll just have to get to it in January.
Literally without fail.
Yeah.
Every single time. Like today is a Wednesday, but usually at like 4 p.m. on Friday, something happens and I text you. I'm like, it's going to be a week late by the time I get to it. The main thing I want to mention today is we've got a bunch of news, actually, surprisingly, given that it's the holidays and it's only been like 5 days since we saw you guys. Spider-Man had a crazy record-breaking opening. The Spider-Man No Way Home made $253 million just in the United States alone. It's the third highest opening ever behind Infinity War and Endgame. It is definitely the highest opening since the pandemic.
In just the first weekend, it became the highest grossing film of 2020 and 2021.
Yeah. Its first weekend, it made $587 million globally. One thing I'm hearing anecdotally is that at multiplexes where perhaps they had showings of Spider-Man and movies like Nightmare Alley or Licorice Pizza, like they're bumping those to make room for more Spider-Man.
Maybe not Licorice Pizza, because that's only on like 4 screens nationwide until this weekend. But yeah, I was hearing that about Nightmare Alley and West Side Story and some other stuff where multiplexes were like, you know what? We sold 15 tickets. We're just going to refund everybody's money. And we'd rather half fill it with people who just walk up to the theater looking for a Spider-Man showing.
I think that's sad.
It is. It sucks,
I'm a fan of it, but still.
It's capitalism in action, you know, and unfortunately, this is one of those things where they just decide that demand for this one product outweighs, you know, the smaller demand for this other product. And so, you know, here we are.
Okay. And there's going to be more because Kevin Feige has confirmed that there will be at least one more Tom Holland Spider-Man.
I thought he had signed to make like another 3. Didn't we report that a couple weeks ago?
I don't know.
Wasn't that in the news? I don't know.
There's at least one more, you know, sure. I mean, and for a lot of people, he is the definitive Spider-Man. Like he's my favorite Spider-Man and he's played the role more than what Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire combined at this point.
If we're counting all the Avengers movies for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's adorable.
He's real good. And, you know, I think even people who thought that and we'll get into this in the spoilers thing that we're going to do today. But I think that people who thought that his Spider-Man was not as angsty or as, you know, facing the weight of the world as other iterations of Peter Parker maybe are going to get what they came for in this version.
There's an evolution.
Yeah.
For sure. Anyway, so as Alonso mentioned, we're going to do a full-on Spider-Man spoiler conversation. It'll be at the end of the podcast. So if for some reason you've not made it out to Spider-Man yet, we've got a bunch of reviews. We're going to do Matrix today, which we won't spoil because like we don't understand it. I'll speak for myself. I don't understand
the audio podcast will have the Spider-Man spoilers at the end, and they will also be their own separate thing on YouTube. Yes. So you cannot stumble upon them. We will give you ample warning to not listen to them if you don't want to know yet.
Right. Okay. So we have more fallout from the Chris Noth sexual assault accusations. A third woman actress and director, Zoe Lister-Jones, who directed and co-starred in Band-Aid, a cool little indie from a few years back.
The Craft remake.
Yeah. She worked with him at a club that he owned in New York. And also she worked with him on an episode of Law and Order, and said that he was like drinking on the job and like had a can of beer beneath the table that he would take sips from. And that he came up behind her and was all skeevy and was like breathing in her neck and told her she smelled good. And
then worse, I mean, Beverly Johnson, the model who was involved with Noth, came out this week and said, oh yeah, I had to file a restraining order against him in 1995 because he was abusive. So it's like,
there's that. His agency dropped him.
Okay.
The Equalizer dropped him.
Yep.
The LAPD is investigating the allegations that came out of one of the women's stories here in LA. And his Sex and the City colleagues, Sarah Jessica Parker, Kristen Davis, and Cynthia Nixon, all put out the same statement on their Instagrams saying, we believe you. We are so sorry to hear this. We stand by you.
We believe the accusers.
Yes. I'm sorry. That was not clear. Yeah. But essentially like distancing themselves from him.
Yeah. Well, if nothing else, I'm sure they're happy that they killed the character off.
Also, there was a multi-million-dollar deal for him to sell his tequila brand, and that has fallen through. I was unaware that Chris Noth had a tequila brand, and like, woe be unto the person who dares to compete with George Clooney in that market.
Or Sammy Hagar.
Does he have a tequila?
He's had a tequila for a while. Yeah, like the Cabo Wabo or whatever that thing.
Well, hopefully he doesn't drink it and then try to drive 55.
Drive 55, exactly.
Because he can't.
He can't.
It's sad that you and I think of the same things. Okay.
Gen Xers.
Yes. So our friends in the LA Film Critics Association, we all got together on a Saturday and spent 7 hours on a Zoom call.
Did we ever? I was so tired after that. I was on a Zoom call all day, and at the end of it, I was just exhausted.
So draining. Whoa. Anyway, we came up with some pretty cool picks. What were our picks for all the best pictures and performances and all that?
Oh, well, let's see. So we gave Drive My Car won best picture and screenplay. Is that right? And then we gave best director and best supporting actor for Power of the Dog for Jane Campion and Cody Smith McPhee. Our best actor was
Simon Rex.
Thank you, Simon Rex in Red Rocket, well deserved. Best actress was Penelope Cruz for Parallel Mothers, which we'll be reviewing today. Yep. Best supporting actress Ariana DeBose, who plays Anita electrifyingly in West Side Story. Best foreign when the best picture winner, if it's an animated film, then we still also give out a best animated film award. If it's a foreign film, we also give out a foreign film, or either, as we now call it, not in the English language. And that award went to Celine Sciamma's Petit Maman. Parallel Mothers also got best score for Alberto Iglesias.
So good.
So I'm blanking on the other ones.
You are blanking on the best award of all, which is
that's true.
For production design. Barb and Star go to Vista Del Mar, which I then made my husband watch. If you guys are watching on the YouTube in the background, he was back there.
He was lurking about for a second.
He is lurking about. I made Chris watch Barb and Star that night because I'm like, oh my God, I want to watch it again right now. And I think he laughed like twice.
Oh, well,
because it's that thing where like either you're on its wavelength or you're not. And I think I hyped it up. I think I hyped it up for him.
Maybe so. Yeah, no, that was an exciting moment for sure. And again, it was a contender in the music / score category. So,
And Jamie Dornan got bandied about for supporting actor.
Also that, for that and for Belfast, although it didn't go his way. And then editing went to I'm blanking now.
I'm also blanking. Cinematography went to Power of the Dog.
Yes.
Editing, did it go to a documentary?
Oh, yes, to Summer of Soul, which also won Best Documentary.
We tend to give editing to documentary.
We do. It's true. Although it's funny, I was one of the people tallying votes, which I do during the meeting just to sort of have something to do. And there were more separate titles mentioned by people in the editing category than in any other category. Like there were more different movies brought up in editing than there were performances brought up in any of the acting categories.
Interesting. I, of course, was a big proponent of The Novice, which we talked about last week on the show.
Sure. Me too.
One thing also to talk about today is that the Oscar shortlists came out in several categories. Documentary, international film, as they call it. Makeup, hair, sound, song or score, anything in those listings?
Doc shorts.
Yeah, anything in those that surprised you?
Well, Titan did not make it through for best foreign film, which not a shocker. I could see maybe Academy members not necessarily embracing what that's about. Although Titan also didn't make it through in makeup, which I'm like, come on.
Or sound.
Like No Time to Die made it through on makeup and Titan didn't. So Drive My Car is still in the running for best foreign film. Another one of my favorites this year, The Worst Person in the World from Joaquin Trier is on the short list. Memoria is not. But again, I think Veersathakun is not necessarily everybody's cup of tea, but if you know, you know. So those, yeah. And then, I mean, for Doc, it was mostly like, our friend Robert Abley did his top 10 Doc list for the Wrap, because I knew he'd seen a lot more than I had this year. And 8 of his picks made it into the final 15. So,
he does have good taste. Among them, Procession and Ascension.
Yes.
And The Rescue, Summer of Soul is in there.
Yep. And Velvet Underground, Julia.
What is the one, the Matthew Heineman one?
First Wave.
First Wave is in there.
In the Same Breath.
In the Same Breath is really good. Yeah, all the depressing COVID docs are in there. So that will be tight. So that came out this past week. There was a huge New York Times story about Louise Taylor, who is Britney Spears, or was Britney Spears' business manager.
Right.
And she handled a lot of big names for a while, but she had this kind of small firm out of Tennessee, and her husband's a pastor. And so a lot, like, Jamie Spears would tithe to the church in Brentwood, Tennessee, with Britney's money from her estate. Like, it's all ugly.
They came off real sketchy in that second New York Times documentary, if memory serves. Right.
Yeah. It's just the lines are very blurred as far as like people's roles and where the money goes. And yeah. So I'm sure in the coming years, we're going to be learning so much about how that conservatorship worked and what a royal fuckover it was. A conservative conservatorship.
Indeed.
So this article came from some of the folks who worked on those New York Times Britney documentaries. So they're all doing that investigative stuff. Also, a huge first-person story in Variety about Bryan Singer, from a guy who had worked with him from a very young age, when he was 18, but looked much younger. Some of the photos that go along with the story where he's with Bryan Singer, this is back in like 2009. He looks about 12. He looks like Lights Camera Jackson. He looks really like boyish and kind of elfin, and like in a way that's creepy, because Bryan Singer is giving like the squinty eyed kind of sultry look into the camera. And the kid's like, I'm just happy to be here. And anyways, it's a long, detailed story, which echoes a lot of the allegations we've heard about Bryan Singer over the years, as far as substance abuse and being controlling. And
yeah, Adam Berry and Kate Arthur, I think, had originally reached out to this guy when they did the big story about Singer for BuzzFeed. And at the time, he was still not wanting to come forward. And as he tells it now in this Variety piece, was still sort of trying to rationalize things and kind of not accept the extent of the trauma that he had dealt with, but now was ready to talk. And so now that Adam and Kate are at Variety, that's where the story wound up running. But this is a connection they made some time ago, and now this person is finally ready to tell his story.
Yeah, it's disturbing for sure. And there's corroboration with other people who were around at the time, and with text messages and voicemails. So it's a long read, but it's about how he had this dream of working in Hollywood, and he was isolated from all of his friends and felt like, I will have nothing if I don't stay with this person. And I guess he became his like de facto assistant,
Yes. Eventually that was his title, but it was all tied into their personal relationship. And I mean, at this point, I think, I don't know that, you'll recall Bryan Singer had been attached to direct like a Red Sonja movie, and it was like, nope, no, that's not happening. And he got fired from, Bohemian Rhapsody. So it's not like his career is on fire right now. Like he's already been dealing with the fallout of different behavioral things and on-set behavior and that kind of thing. But I think this just sort of like confirms what a lot of people already suspected, and I think just sort of strengthens the case that, okay, maybe you hire somebody else.
Yes. Speaking of bad behavior, James Franco is now talking about the many accusations against him, as far as the way he used his acting school and the way he treated his students, and some questionable behavior on his part. He laid low for several years and then did a podcast in which he owns up to it and talks about how he had been in recovery for alcoholism, but never dealt with the sex addiction that he also was suffering from. And this behavior was a manifestation of that. And he's done some work on himself, and he thought, I'm going to lay low for a few years. And the instinct when you have a high profile scandal like this is to try to like get out in front of it and be very proactive and really speak up about it. And he's like, I'm going to lay low. And then when the time is right, I'm going to talk. And so now he is talking.
Yeah, I think that more people would benefit from that idea of what if I just like shut up for a second? What if I pull back and work on me and rather than get super defensive about these accusations and try and like paint them as being in bad faith or having some other agenda at play, maybe I did do this thing and maybe I need to think about why I did this thing and how I can not do this thing again in the future. And I have always said, in this whole notion about, oh, you're canceled, I think there is a way forward from this stuff, but that no one was trying to pursue it, that everybody was being all like, yeah, fuck you, I'm fine. And I'm going to, do comedy for right wingers now and screw you if you don't like it, blah, but I think I think there is a path forward in which one acknowledges, yes, I did a wrong thing. I did a bad thing. And now I'm going to remove myself from the spotlight and not make this about me and try and figure out how I can be better in the future, how I can make the, industry better for people where they're less, likely to be caught in positions of vulnerability or whatever. So, I mean, we're not at the end of the James Franco story, but I think he's at least making a good faith effort to try and move forward in a way that isn't just self-serving.
Yes. Speaking of bad behavior, more of it. Louis C.K. has a new comedy special.
Okay, this is exactly how you don't do it.
It's called Sorry. He's sorry.
Okay, Louis C.K. Great. Let's hear that. Sure.
It's downloadable.
Oh, good. Okay.
Anyway, so that is out there. Jay Johnston, who is the voice of Jimmy Pesto on Bob's Burgers, a show that we love around here and watch faithfully. Apparently he was at the Capitol on January 6th.
Yeah.
So he is now banned from Bob's Burgers.
It's kind of a testament, I think, to a big hole in the FBI's sort of facial recognition thing, that this only came to light because fans online who were combing through the footage had said, hey, isn't that Jay Johnson? Like, he was on Mr. Show. His face is out there in the world. It's not like he's just some animation voice who you never see. He had a visible on-camera role on an HBO comedy series, and yet nobody at the FBI clicked on it and figured out it was him. It took somebody on the internet who's a fan of comedy, I guess, to be like, hey, I know that face. So that is a little distressing that he went past unnoticed for so long, frankly.
That they're crowdsourcing.
Yes.
Do you know that? And that actually, I think, led to a lot of people getting arrested, though.
Oh,
the
for
FBI
sure.
saying, hey, do you know this guy?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, look, I'm glad that there's not this massive security state that can necessarily recognize every single person on earth by facial recognition software, but he was on a TV show.
Isn't that funny? So that happened. And then finally, for this segment of news, the Death on the Nile trailer came out with a conspicuously small amount of Army Hammer. Like the way they cut around it, he's dancing and you see him in profile or you see him from the back, and it's a whole lot of Kenneth Branagh and Gal Gadot.
Well, I mean, look, did you see the other Death on the Nile? Do you know this material at all?
I don't think that I ever have. I mean, I know what it's about, but I'm not sure I ever saw the original film.
He plays a major role. Like
he's like the husband.
Yeah, there's no working around it. Like, it's a big role in this thing. So that's the spin machine is going to be fascinating for this one. Plus the fact that like Letitia Wright just gets more and more like irritating as time goes by with her like anti-vax nonsense and whatnot. So it's like, this is just one of those movies where like, the longer they wait to release it, it seems like the worse things get around the people who are in it. Although the Army Hammer thing, for all the stuff that came, when it first came out, like, oh, is he a cannibal? And, like it's kind of died away. Like he's never been arrested for anything. He's never been charged with anything. Yes, his publicist quit and that didn't look good, but like,
and his agent.
Team Hammer like left him, but this hasn't snowballed into anything else. So it's like, I think weirdly enough, with enough time to be like, oh yeah, Army Hammer, there's some reason we don't like him, but I don't remember what it is, but Letitia Wright, just those hits keep coming.
Right. Army Hammer, didn't he do something? Keep my finger on it. Yeah, you're right. I
Yes.
think he has laid low also, and he's not posting on social media. He
Yeah.
used to post on Instagram all the time. So there's that. We have a few Omicron developments, and then we will go into our film reviews. So it is the most wonderful time of the year, unless you're in New York and have
Oof.
tickets for the Rockettes,
Ugh.
because they've canceled the rest of their season, like the rest of the year. Like if you're in New York and you want to go to the Rockettes,
Yeah.
you can't.
They closed the LA Christmas Carol, the whole rest of the production as well. That just came out this morning
Oh wow.
with Bradley Whitford.
Our friends across the way, the New York Film Critics Circle, have postponed their awards dinner.
Yeah.
Fox has canceled its New Year's Eve broadcast, not Fox News Channel, but like the main Fox network.
Right.
They have canceled their, comedy extravaganza thing they were going to do. And then a week ago on Saturday Night Live, they had no live audience, and Charlie XCX pulled out as the musical guest because several of the cast members tested positive for COVID.
Yeah, it was Paul Rudd, Michael Che, Kenan Thompson, Tina Fey, and Tom Hanks popped in to help out. No studio audience, very stripped down. They basically showed a few sketches that had been taped earlier in the week. Che and Tina did update, like sitting on chairs on the stage where the guy usually does the monologue, where the host does the monologue. And everything else was them introducing their favorite vintage, like holiday SNL clips.
Was it weird?
It was weird, but it's where we are now, and as a friend of mine said, this is making me feel sane. Like I like the fact that they're taking this seriously, and they took steps to keep people safe. And, they're just kind of like show must go oning it and making it work, so yeah, it was unusual, but I think all things considered, they did it as best as they could.
Yeah. Anyway,
the AFI luncheon, I think, also got canceled. The awards luncheon, or at least postponed. Yeah.
Well, my family was supposed to come out for Christmas, and now they are not. Chris's sister and her husband were going to come out from Scottsdale, and now they are not, which I totally appreciate. They want to be safe, and so do we. We're supposed to go next week to go decorate Rose Parade floats, which I've never done in my entire life. I lived in Southern California most of my life. It's a cool thing. You can go to Pasadena and like help them put flowers on the Rose Parade floats. And Nick and I and a friend of his and her mom were all planning to go to Pasadena to do that, which I'm hoping we might still do, but I'm thinking maybe not, because it's a bunch of people in a room.
Yeah. It's indoors.
The floats are indoors. Yeah.
Oh, then maybe not.
I mean, they want you to wear a mask and all that.
Well, I would hope. Yeah. No, we're doing another stripped down Christmas Eve this year. Like usually we would have like 20, 30 people over for a big Noche Buena dinner, but not last year and not this year. So
yeah, you guys always have your party every year.
Yeah, I haven't had that in a while, actually, but definitely not this year.
Anyway, so hope you guys have a good Christmas, whatever it is that you're doing. And if you're going to go to the movies, be safe.
For sure, yes.
I wonder how that's going to affect folks. Like Spidey had that giant opening weekend. And then I wonder if folks now are feeling a little more apprehensive.
I keep wondering, like, is there going to be a Spider-Man spike,
A Spiker Man,
something like that.
Anyway,
so we'll see what happens. But
that's
anyway,
what I have for news.
Be safe, everybody. Have a great holiday, however you celebrate it, and just stay safe in all the ways that you can stay safe. Please, we want to enter 2022 with you and see what the hell that year has to offer. Anyway, thanks for watching. Like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check us out at Be Fast All Day on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And don't miss our Patreon page. Oh, the things happening over there. Videos like this with no commercial interruption. We're talking about the season finale of Hawkeye, which was a doozy. We have our monthly Off the Menu, where our subscribers pick a film for us to talk about. We'll be discussing Ingmar Bergman's 1982 classic Fanny and Alexander, one of my favorite Christmas movies. Lots more stuff that only our subscribers are privy to. So you should become one at patreon.com/BeFastAllDay. Yes, we will be talking about the Book of Boba Fett very soon. So there's that. Anyway, happy holidays, everybody. Take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.